From JBS Studios in Greater New York, this is the JBS News Update with Teisha Bader.
I'm Teisha Bader with the JBS News Update for Monday, January the 9th, 2017. 4 Israeli soldiers who were killed in a terror attack yesterday were laid to rest today. Thousands gathered to remember and mourn 22-year-old IDF Lieutenant Yael Yakutiel, 20-year-old cadet Shir Hajjaj, 20-year-old cadet Shira Tzur, and 20-year-old cadet Erez Orbach, who were murdered yesterday when a large truck deliberately rammed into them and over a dozen other soldiers who had just gotten off a bus at the popular tourist spot, the Tayelet, or Promenade, in the Jerusalem neighborhood of East Talpiot. Tzur and Orbach reportedly were both also U.S. citizens. 16 other soldiers were injured in the incident, one of whom was said to still be in life-threatening condition. The truck was driven by Fadi Al-Kunbar, a resident of the neighboring Arab village of Jabal Mukaber. Al-Kunbar plowed into the group of soldiers and then put his vehicle in reverse to hit them again. He was shot by several other IDF soldiers at the scene, preventing even more casualties, and later died of his wounds. Several members of Al-Kunbar's family have been arrested for allegedly knowing his intentions and not stopping him. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu visited the scene of the truck ramming and linked it to other recent similar terror attacks across the globe.
We in Jerusalem have just experienced an unprovoked terrorist attack, a murderous attack that claimed the lives of 4 young Israelis and wounded others. This is part of the same pattern inspired by Islamic State, by ISIS, that we saw first in France and then in Germany, now in Jerusalem. This is part of the same ongoing battle against this global scourge of the new terrorism. We can only fight it together, but we have to fight it, and we will.
The U.S. State Department condemned the attack. Deputy spokesperson Mark Toner said there is absolutely no justification for these brutal and senseless attacks, adding, "We condemn the glorification of terrorism now or at any time and call on all to send a clear message that terrorism must never be tolerated." The United Nations Security Council issued a condemnation of the attack as well and extended their sympathies to the families of the victims and to the government of Israel, saying that any act of terrorism is criminal and unjustifiable regardless of the motivation. The new Secretary General at the United Nations also released a statement. Antonio Guterres, who recently took over the role from Ban Ki-moon, said violence and terror will not bring a solution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, quite the opposite. All those responsible for such acts must be brought to justice, condemned, and disavowed. Their acts should not be allowed to deter from the need for a renewed commitment to dialogue. A vote to impose an academic boycott on Israel was voted down this weekend. As we reported to you last week, the Delegate Assembly of the Modern Language Association held the vote during their annual convention in Philadelphia, which endorses the boycott and is the latest effort of the boycott, divestment, and sanctions movement, which seeks to delegitimize the state of Israel. 113 members of the MLA Saturday voted against the measure, with 79 in favor. Text from the vote stated that an academic boycott could curtail debates with representatives of Israeli universities, thereby blocking possible dialogue and general scholarly exchange. Jewish groups praised the MLA rejection of the anti-Israel measure. CEO of the American Jewish Committee, David Harris, said on Saturday that the MLA today has sent a message to the entire academic community that American and Israeli campuses benefit greatly from academic cooperation, and that boycotting Israel, the only democratic nation in the region and a country which has been seeking peace with its neighbors since its rebirth in 1948, will not be tolerated because it does not in any way advance peace. And staying with the AJC, a delegation created and led by the Global Advocacy Group aimed at promoting pluralism in Israel is visiting the country this week to meet with Israeli government officials and others. The Jewish Religious Equality Coalition, or JREC, is being co-led by AJC Director of Contemporary Jewish Life, Stephen Boehm, who said that fundamental questions of Jewish identity and other issues were not just an Israeli matter. Boehm said concerns in the U.S. Jewish community about the chief rabbinate's extensive influence on personal status issues are palpable and compel us to speak out and rigorously advocate for change. One of JREC's aims is to seek an alternative to the monopoly of the chief rabbinate in Israel regarding matters such as marriage, divorce, and conversion. And taking a look now at our programming for tonight on JBS for Monday, January the 9th. At 7 o'clock, it's The Wisdom of Dr. Ruth Westheimer. At 7:30, a look at the Israeli economy with Israel's economic minister, Neely Shalev, and others from the Jerusalem Post conference this year. At 8 o'clock, David Makovsky of the Washington Institute for Near East Policy and author Dan Sanor discuss U.S.-Israel relations with Abigail Pogrebin in a program of the Jewish Week with UJA Federation of New York. At 9, Mark Golub sits down with Jewish Republican Ken Abramowitz on L'chaim, and at 10, a look at Jewish history in fiction. And coming up right after this newscast tonight at 6:30, Mark Golub speaks with President of the Zionist Organization of America, Mort Klein, who discusses the Obama administration's abstention on an anti-settlement resolution at the UN Security Council and responds to Secretary of State John Kerry's justification. That's on tonight's In the News. And that's the JBS News Update from Monday, January the 9th, 2017. I'm Teisha Bader.